Hi, I'm Harold Bell for the Legends of Inside Sports and the Way We Were. In 1991, Rodney King was involved in a traffic stop by LA police and the video went viral. Police brutality finally came out of the shadows of the thin blue line and the code of silence. 26 years ago, the first black state's attorney for Prince George's County and the first black police chief in Jackson, Mississippi were guests on my show, Inside Sports. Listen to what my guests had to say about the thin blue line and renegade cops in Prince George's County, and you will understand the more things change, the more they remain the same. In a red, black, and green liberation justice that he has been serving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hills, and Hooterville Churches will no longer be so damn relevant. All right, welcome back to Inside Sports. I'm your host, Harold Bell. This is the Saturday edition of Inside Sports. And the number to call today is 462-3313. If you got a comment or question, you're going to the telephones probably around 12 o'clock. And those of you out there, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, just like I give everybody each week. As on many occasions, I never ask who's calling because I really don't care who's calling because we have nothing to hide here on Inside Sports. When you're dealing here on Inside Sports, we're dealing from first-hand knowledge. We're not talking about something that we heard or read on radio or TV. So the number to call is 462-3313, and we got a delay signal now. We got caller ID for those of you who want to call up and act the food. We very seldom have that, but we had it about 2 weeks ago, one caller. So we'll be able to identify you. I don't even want to know who you are. It doesn't make any difference. What I want to do now is introduce my special guest here in the studio. My first guest is a native of Durham, North Carolina. He served 25 years on the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Many of those years internal affairs. He retired just recently as Deputy Chief of the 6th District. He is now Chief of Police of the Jackson, Mississippi Police Department. He's made history, the first ever. I would like to welcome to Inside Sports, Chief Jimmy Wilson. How you doing, Chief?
Doing fine, Harold. Thank you.
All right, thanks for taking time out to be here. My next guest is a native Washingtonian. He's a product of the D.C. public school system. He's a Howard University Law School graduate. He also done his undergrad work there. He's the first black to serve as Prince George's County State's Attorney. He's now in his second term. He has been a long time concerned black man in Big Brother. He didn't wait until it became fashionable and newsworthy to become one. He's a long-time advocate of civil and human rights for all people. I would like to welcome to Inside Sports, Mr. Alex Williams. How you doing, Alex?
Fine, Harold. Glad to be here this morning.
All right. I'd like to thank once again both of you for taking time out to be here. Guys, let's take a look at what's happening today. One thing we got to realize, this is not LA ride. This has become a national ride. And I'm talking about taking on national proportions. I'm talking about in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm talking about in Seattle, Washington. I'm talking about in San Francisco, Las Vegas, Wisconsin, Birmingham, Alabama, Tampa, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Baltimore, Maryland, New York, and Pittsburgh. What I want to know, where do we go from here? And let's start out with you, Jimmy. Do police, in your experience as a veteran now, in PG County, in D.C., treat blacks as fairly as they treat whites? Just from your experience, yeah.
We have to consider, first of all, that police officers will do what they feel is acceptable by the community. And when you're talking about abusing individuals' rights, if that's something that's fashionable and acceptable, then police officers will do it. They've done it in the past, and I'm certain that it will be done in the future. The tragedy of this whole Rodney King affair is that the whole world saw that videotape. And now our society has said to a number of people that this is acceptable behavior on the part of the police. So unless we in the law enforcement arena go out and do something about this and turn this thing around, then you'll find that police officers around the country will feel that this is something that's acceptable. So we have to make sure that we jump on this thing, get it turned around immediately, stop it before it gets started, before it goes any further. Um, I think that with the contemporary leadership in law enforcement in this country, we can turn it around. We will turn it around. We have some of the best law enforcement minds in the entire country who are black. We're talking about Lee Brown in New York City. We're talking about Willie Williams, who's in Philadelphia, who will be going to Los Angeles, and Eldrin Bell down in Atlanta, Harold Johnson down in Mobile, Marta Tapscott down in Richmond. So people like that will turn this thing around. But we've got to make sure that it stops at this point.
How about you, Alex? Have growing up here in Washington, D.C., and being a native Washingtonian, and then having experiences traveling in and out of PG County and the district, how do you see this overall picture as far as police treating black folks fairly when it comes to the law?
Well, Harold, I was just as stunned as everyone else in America was when I saw that terrible injustice. Now, we have to be honest. There's a lot of frustration out there. This is not anything new. It has been happening for many years in almost every major jurisdiction. There's a confrontation between the police and the community. And I'm in law enforcement right now, and I know that there's been various instances of injustice in my own county over the years, as well as other areas. Where do we go from here, Harold? Well, we all have to come together and do more than just praying. We must, of course, that's the first step. But after we finish praying, what do you do? And my thing has been, Harold, and I've been on your show before, is that we must understand the connection between voting and getting hit in the head, as I said before. In a jurisdiction like Prince George's County, where the African American population is in the majority, they need to get control of the government, including whoever's the mayor there, whoever are the judges there, police chief. That can happen. And when people allow injustice to take place across the country, what you do is move them out so you can get justice. But this is a problem that we've got to deal with. I'm outraged as a part of law enforcement right now. I'm almost ashamed of what has happened, and it hurts me in trying to eliminate the double standard that we see all over America. That's what I've been trying to do in 5 years on my job, trying to eliminate the double standard where we see that in the criminal justice system.
You know, my 25 plus years of working in the community, working these streets in Washington, D.C., I worked the streets in the last ride. I walked 14th Street corridor, had a police badge because of my influence in the community and as a roving leader, and I had an outstanding leader in that district, which is the third district now, Tillman O'Brien, who also had a feel for the community, who got out. There were several officers out there that I grew up with that worked the community, and we had a great rapport when it came to young people and the needs of the community. For some reason, there's always been this police mentality, them against us. That is the thing that I've seen over a number of years. Now, there are a lot of good police out there who want to do the right thing. But the system from within has put in their brains that those folks are against us out there, and we have to stick together no matter what. No matter if there's a rotten cop on the force, we got to back him to the hill, which I have found wrong over the years. I don't know how we are going to change that type of mentality, which is still out there today. I'm seeing young people put on the streets with a badge and gun who have no idea what the repercussions are down the line, because they don't know how to deal with people. This is a people person job. You got to be people orientated. You, the Metropolitan Police, the PG County, you work for the people, but they don't think, and that on many occasions. Jimmy, how How do we go about changing those types of attitudes?
In previous years, Harold, we had people, as you mentioned, like Tillman O'Brien, who had minds of their own. They can go out and do things because those things were the right things to do. Police officers have been very clannish over the years. I mean, they all pull together and stick by each other no matter what. And with these young police officers that we have coming in today, they lose their own individuality. They become a part of the group. Um, and you heard about the code of silence. Well, for many, many years, we denied the existence of the code of silence. But as everybody can see, it's alive and well. It's still out there. Police officers come in, and without regard to their own personal integrity, they jump right in and band along with everybody else. And it's something that's going to be very, very difficult to change. We've tried it through training. We've tried it through individual contact with police officers, but it's something that has to start with the individual at home. It's just like we talk about a person using drugs, whether or not they choose to use drugs. It has to start at home. They have to have their own sense of values, their own sense of family values. And when that comes into play, then they will realize that they will stand for the right thing, whatever that is. And
Jimmy,
they do not have to get involved with what everybody else does.
Jimmy, one thing that you and I know, and you speak from experience from terminal affairs, there's been a lot of cover-ups of police brutality in this town over the years. This is nothing new. When you say start at home, we also have to take a look at it starts at the top in the Metropolitan Police Department. The chief has to be the leader. That's number one. It's just too bad that we got a system that rewards guys that go out and harass people in the community. The good guys who want to be good guys, Jim, you and I know are held back because the system of how they promote people is outdated. There's a written examination in the Metropolitan Police Department when you go up for promotion, and there's a verbal examination that if you don't like a guy, you sit down among your peers and you are graded. They can grade you from 1 to 100. So if you are a great guy on the street and want to do the right thing and you are not a part of the in crowd, you are lost right there. That's one of the things that has to be changed in the Metropolitan Police Department if we're going to give everybody an equal and fair shot and bring everybody together as a family. That is one of the things that I found out. Alex, from where you're sitting, what do you think about this? Where does this type of mentality come from, and how are we going to bring about change?
Well, Harold, there's no question that this mentality has existed for a long period of time, but behind this incident, there is a good sign. I have talked to a number of police officers in this area, and I've seen them on television, and for one of the few times we have seen officers now speaking out that they felt that there was an injustice, and that's why we can't label all of the officers as with that mentality. Yes, it has existed. I found out it existed when I took on my job, as you recall, when I made a decision that there was some injustice, there was excessive force, and because I had labeled a few of them cowboys and renegades, you recall the reaction from that whole mentality. It's a situation where it's us against you, and they all came together. They had a vote of no confidence against me, and that sort of mentality, as if you always have to side with law enforcement. But that's not the way it works. And I'm so glad that there's people like Chief Wilson, who's with us today, who's now the chief of Mississippi, Jackson, and others, our own chief here in D.C., who has come out and said that's an injustice. That kind of thing cannot go on, and I think that we're beginning to deal with this sense of this mentality that has existed, that is us against me, and it's got to change. And we need to put leaders who are police chiefs, who are prosecutors, who are very sensitive to that. And if they're not going to be sensitive, then move them out of office and replace them, just the way we saw Police Chief Gates being dealt with in California.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed in this town, like I said, I've had an opportunity to work with all the police chiefs in this town, starting with Jerry Wilson when I came on as a roving leader, with Jefferson, and with Turner. I find that Ike Fullwood is a part of the problem in this town. He has been very, very abusive when it comes to black folks, to his own police officers. So he is one of the problems. I want to talk about some of the reactions from policemen in this area after the verdict on Rodney King. I'm gonna take a commercial break, and I'm gonna come right back with my special guest.
Okay, welcome back to Inside Sports. I've long said that Inside Sports was was out of Compton long before NWA. Now, 2015 marked 50 years that I spent in the war zones of the inner city, working with youth gangs and at-risk children. I've seen up close and personal the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to law enforcement in this region. The thin blue line and code of silence are real. Did you hear what Chief Wilson just said? It's real. We have been in denial a long time. I have always known it's been there because my brothers, two brothers, were in law enforcement. My older brother Bobby and my younger brother Earl. Bobby was a U.S. Marshal for 25 years, and my brother Earl was a D.C. cop for 14 years, and they encountered the thin blue line and the code of silence when they tried to do the right thing in the community and be good cops. They caught hell. You know, there are renegade cops in PG County. You heard Alex Williams, what they tried to do with him. Here's a man, the chief law enforcement officer as a state's attorney. They could come out with a vote of confidence in him because he said, hey, what you're doing is wrong. You know, that is the kind of thing that's going on right today. This is 26 years later, folks, 2016. There are renegade cops in Prince George's County and in D.C. Political magazine calls PG County the Ferguson next door. This is what Political magazine said. One of the most brutal police departments in the country. Waiting just to go off. You know, for folks to say, well, Harold, I don't understand how all this happened. Where did all this come from? Black folks against the police. Well, I don't know what rock you guys been hiding up under, what closet you've been hiding in. But in 1968, the Kerner Report, a commission appointed by the President of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson, he asked the members of that commission to investigate and find out why there was so much unrest in the black community because we were having riots all over the place. Well, the commission came back with the report, and the report read, we are headed for two different societies, one black and one white. President Johnson ignored the report. The Congressional Black Caucus ignored the report. The NAACP ignored the report. The Urban League ignored the report. All of them sat on their hands. And that's why we are in this sorry position that we are in today. I just don't understand, you know, how we can sit around and not understand what's going on when our kids understand what's going on. There was on ABC News, they did a special school report. They had kids, high school kids from all religions, colors, ethnic groups, sit down and talk about racism in America. They knew exactly where they were headed. They knew we were headed for two different societies. Why is that the kids know and you don't know? The D.C. Police Department is in a fix too. I have alerted Eleanor Holmes Norton, Mayor Muriel Bowser, and City Councilwoman Murray Che, because we just had a young man that's been out in these streets with me make it all the way to inspector in the D.C. Police Department. On one of his assignments, he noticed that something was not right, that the books were being cooked. And he said, not on my watch. The same thing my brother did when he caught a black cop and a white cop beating up on black prisoners in the cells on the weekend. Well, this young brother did the same thing, not on my watch. Well, he got demoted back to captain and was really forced into retirement. Can you understand or comprehend how much money this brother lost from being demoted from inspector to captain? And there's another young lady who has been on the department for over 2 decades. She was fired for no reason. Her case has been in arbitration for 5 years, and nobody has said or done anything. I reported all of this to Eleanor, to Mayor Bowser, and to City Councilman Murray Che. So my thing is this. You know, when I think about and I see what's going on around me, like last year, I watch cops traveling in packs of threes in PG County harassing black drivers. Now, some of these probably black drivers, deserve to get a ticket. But man, I have yet to see, in 40 years, see a PG cop pull over a white driver. And I live between the Census Bureau and Andrews Air Force Base. And I know there are plenty white folks out there with driver's license driving cars. But I have yet to see a cop pull over a white driver. I have yet to see to come into the neighborhood and see a group of white kids sitting on the ground in handcuffs. But I see that all the time with black youngsters. Something is wrong with this picture. In my letter to Governor Larry Hogan, I said, man, if you think I'm playing the race card, you play undercover boss and go down to the Upper Marlboro Traffic Court on any given morning, you will see 10 blacks to every white. Now, you don't think something is wrong with that? And you can't respond. That's been over a year ago. But that's the kind of mentality that we're dealing with. And you got to understand that these guys are dangerous out there. They got the mentality of the KKK. Because you got to understand your history of how the early police departments were infiltrated with the KKK members. They went from the KKK to the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police. Now, have you ever heard a Fraternal Order president say that was a bad shooting? Never in the history of the department. That's the kind of mentality that you're dealing with. But recently, a top cop, a white cop, came out and said, his name, Torrance Cunningham. He's the chief of police in Massachusetts. I think it's Wellesley, something like that, Massachusetts. He's the president of the largest management organization in police department, all over. He's with the Police Association. He apologized just recently and said, hey, I'd like to apologize for police departments around the country and the way that we have treated people of color. Now, man, that took some courage. And that's what has to happen. People at the top, because that's where it starts. It starts at the top. I don't want my brothers to die in vain, man, because of these rotten, coward, bully cops out here. Most of these guys ain't never played no ball. They ain't never had no girlfriend. They weren't popular in high school. They get a gun and a badge and think that they the boss of everybody. That's the kind of mentality you're dealing with. I'm telling you, I know some of them. So my message to the young people, this is my talk. Be careful, okay? Be careful. I know you got different type of attitudes today, but I want to say too, we can't blame all this on Donald Trump. He cannot be the scapegoat of problems that we've had in our community for decades. We need to clean up our own house before we start looking at someone else's house. I'm going to close by saying that every black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. Until next time, I'm Harold Bell, and you can color me gone.